The waste of the week goes to Ivy League colleges collecting billions of dollars in endowments, and the federal U.S. government sitting on millions of dollars for Americans affected most by the COVID vaccines. The founder and CEO of OpenTheBooks.com, Andrzejewski, joins us right now with the waste of the week. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jan.
So you and your team at Open the Books took a look at Ivy League endowments and found collectively their endowments could exceed $1 trillion by 2048. Break this down for us, Adam.
Well, the Ivies had a huge year in 2021, Jan. In 1 year, their collective endowment of the 8 schools of the Ivy League rose by $44 billion because of their stock market and market returns. Well, what our auditors did is we took a look and we forecast with reasonable assumptions how much money and how long it would take for the Ivy League to have a collective endowment. Today, it's a little shy of $200 billion. How long would it take to hit $1 trillion? And we forecast at reasonable assumptions, it'll take between 26 and 27 years.
Wow, maybe they can help with some of our spending bills on Capitol Hill right now. That's how much money we need, right? I want to take a closer look at how much these schools actually received. Let's take a look by the schools right now. Harvard got $53.2 billion, Yale $42.3 billion, Columbia $13.5 billion, Brown came in at $6.9, Dartmouth $8.5, UPenn $20.5 billion, and Cornell $10 billion. So, Adam, this is organized as charitable nonprofits, and some critics right now questioning if Ivy Leagues found workarounds to federal, state, and local tax systems. Have there been any investigations into this?
Well, Congress needs to crack down. You're right. They're organized as educational charities. But you just put up on the screen the massive endowments of these schools. They've got all the money in the world, yet they're dialed into taxpayer wallets. And Jan, I'll submit to you, the Ivy League doesn't need taxpayer help. In a recent 6-year period, our auditors at OpenTheBooks.com found that the 8 schools of the Ivy League collected $42 billion at taxpayer cost. And that's direct taxpayer subsidies, direct federal payments on contracts and grants, and special tax benefits they receive on their endowment and investments. They don't need taxpayer help. They should lighten the load on the American taxpayer.
It also begs the question why in the world it costs $80,000 a year to attend Harvard, for instance, just adding to student debt. And as you mentioned, why the average person should care.
So if you're sitting out there and when Harvard has $53 billion in their endowment, but their sticker price on an education for tuition, room and board and fees is between $80,000 and $90,000 a year, here's why you should care. It pushes up the price for everybody outside of the Ivy League. When that becomes the upper bound, other colleges raise their tuition prices in behind Harvard. That spikes the cost of a higher education for all of us.
All right. Very quickly, you've also been tracking federal payouts for vaccine-related injuries and deaths. Let's explain this first to our audience. Back in February of 2020, manufacturers, distributors, healthcare providers, they were generally immune from legal liability for any losses that related to the administration or the use of covered countermeasures against COVID. So the liability protection enabled those industry players to kind of shift and get into high gear so they wouldn't have to worry about, the fear of lawsuits, right, for the pandemic. But we are still operating in the country under a public health emergency. So there is a special fund if someone is successful in a lawsuit against, for instance, the COVID vaccine, and it's called the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Fund, which I doubt many people even know what this fund is. Can you explain that? I don't know if I explained it correctly anyway. I hope I made sense by what I just said.
Well, you did, Jan, and this is breaking news. You're the first we know to cover this on the national desk. Nobody knows really about this fund. There's only 1,300 claims. On the public reporting website of adverse reactions to the COVID-19 vaccine, there's been, families have reported up to 16,000 deaths. And 5,300 deaths that occurred within 0, 1, or 2 days after the vaccination. But there's only been 1,300 case filings at this special compensation fund for injuries and death. Only 53 of those 1,300 cases are related to deaths. So the American people just don't know about this fund. Families can collect up to $370,000 for a COVID vaccine death. and up to $379,000 for injuries.
And so there is some recourse here. Have there been, so as you said, have there been a bunch of payouts as a result of that?
So last year in the normal vaccine fund, think about the influenza, measles, mumps, things like that. There was nearly $250 million paid out. In the COVID fund, Jan, zero, no cases paid out. People need to, the agency needs to get serious about making it easier for people to file and collect.
All right. Andrzejewski, great to see you on this Friday. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jan.